الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن عليا ولي الله أشهد أن عليا حجة الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله
Shall we start? أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم محمد اللهم صل على محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين ولعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد، قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه المجيد: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل إن الموت الذي تفرون منه فإنه ملاقيكم ثم تردون إلى عالم الغيب والشهادة فينبئكم بما تعملون. صلوات. اللهم صل على محمد وآل Muhammad. We are in the middle of Muharram and Safar, commemorating the Shuhada of Karbala and the Shuhada of Ahlul Bayt alayhimu salatu wassalam. And we have also witnessed people dying due to the floods in Pakistan, and all kind of atrocities and oppressions are being committed against Muslims, and Muslims are being killed. And at the same time, yesterday we heard the Queen of this country passed away. So I thought, let's look at the verses of Holy Quran and tradition of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in remembering the dead, and in regards to the lessons that we can learn from the tragedies and tests and passing away of the people, whether they are Muslims or non-Muslims. There is another narration which has been quoted in Sunni and Shia sources, which says, وَكَفَى بِالْمَوْتِ وَاحِدًا, that for a believer it is enough, death is enough to correct himself and correct his behavior by just remembering death. So death is definitely one of the most certain things that we will face in this world is death. Nobody is going to live forever. كُلُّ نَفْسٍ ذَائِقَةُ الْمَوْتِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Holy Quran says nobody will be excused from not dying. Everybody who has come to this world will pass away. And I was listening to radio and some messages that are being given, messages as condolences that are being given for the passing away of Queen. Some of the messages are very interesting. For example, I was listening to a cardinal's message, and he was saying that this world is a passing away place. And that's the exact concept that we have, that this world is not eternal. This is the world that we are not going to live forever in this world. We have to come and go and pass away from this world. And I have mentioned this before as well. If we look at Old English, in Old English also, they used to refer to death as passing away, which means that this world was not a place to live forever. And Islam teaches same thing in Islamic terms and teachings. Intiqal, the word intiqal is used when a person is passed away in Urdu, Persian, and maybe in Turkish and so many other languages, and Arabic as well. When a person passes away, they say, Falana intiqal kar gaya. I mean, the person has passed away. Intiqal means transferred. He was here for a while and then he has been transferred to other dimension. It also entirely depends on how we believe about our lives. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is eternal, and He created us to live eternally, but not in this dimension. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala initially created us in metaphysical dimension to live forever. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala transferred us to the physical dimension, which is our body, and in this world, to live for a short period of time. We are not going to live in this world eternally. We are going to live in this world for a short period of time. Then we will be transferred to metaphysical dimension that initially we were created for, and we will go in that dimension towards that dimension, and that is called eternal dimension, or in Islamic terminology it is called akhirat or akhirah, as Arabic or Arabs say. So definitely we are not going to live in this world forever. While we are living in this world, according to narrations and ahadith, a mu'min, a true believer, considers himself or herself as trapped in this world. And if he has the awareness and ma'rifah of his reason of creation, he would be more eager to build his akhirah, his eternal life. And there are narrations and khutbahs from Ahlul Bayt alayhi salatu wasalam, in which this meaning has been explained, or our holy Imams have themselves mentioned that a believer, a true believer, will always think of going to eternal dimension, of course with the permission of Allah. We are not allowed to end our lives with our choice, and that is not permissible. And we are brought to this world with Allah's will and permission, and we will leave when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to leave. So those who came to this world came with the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, including Ahlul Bayt alayhi salatu wasalam, Imam Hussain alayhi salatu wasalam, Shuhada, Karbala, all of them, they came with the permission of Allah. And while they were living in this world, they had a choice to choose the right path or the wrong path. So this is where we have the freedom of choice. According to teachings of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salatu wasalam, nobody is forced to do anything in this world. Unfortunately, some of our Muslim brothers have the belief that if Yazid killed Imam Hussain alayhi salatu wasalam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted him to do that, therefore we should not curse him. Or if Saddam Hussein or Hitler or people like that did whatever they did in this world, Allah wanted them to do this, so therefore we should forget the history. They encourage us to forget the history and just concentrate on what is going on in our world right now. So same thing is happening about the Queen, the passing away of Queen. We all know that British Empire ruled many countries. There used to be a time that sun never used to set in the kingdom of Queen, and she is one of the longest serving monarch in the recent history, and she survived that long period. But the problems that were created by this kind of colonial kingdom cannot be also ignored. And we as a Shia Muslims believe that Allah's justice is there. And this is another difference between us and the followers of other madhahib, that it is part of our belief to believe in justice of God. First we need to believe in oneness of God, then we believe in justice of God. And just meaning of justice of God, meaning of believing in justice of God is that, again, according to verses of Holy Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's justice means that He will not ignore an atom's worth of good from anyone. It doesn't say Muslim or non-Muslim. An atom's value of good will not be ignored by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And an atom's weight of oppression will also not be ignored. So that's the true meaning of justice. Definitely, there are non-Muslims around us, there are non-Muslims in the world who are doing many good deeds, and Allah's justice will give them the reward according to the judgment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whether in this world or maybe somewhere else. There is a story about Hatem Tai. He was a non-believer, but he was extremely generous. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam came and declared his prophethood, he had died already. So he died before Islam. And then there was a victory for Muslims, and Prophet Muhammad sent some soldiers and people to the tribe which was ruled by the children of Hatem Tai. And when they realized that army of Prophet Muhammad is coming towards them, the daughter and son of Hatem Tai ran away. But the daughter was captured and she was brought in presence of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. And Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, knowing that she was not a believer, he respected her. He knew what his father did and how generous his father was. He respected her and treated her with great honor and respect, and that changed her opinion about Prophet Muhammad and Islam, and eventually she became Muslim. And then when she was released, she went back and found her brother and advised her brother that this Prophet Muhammad, is not what we are thinking of. You should go and meet him and try to understand his logic and his reasoning. And he listened to his sister and came back and met Hazrat Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and spent some time and looked how Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was equally treating Muslim and non-Muslim, and he was respecting everyone, and he was also respecting the son of Hatem Tai. And in one incident, apparently, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam even pointed out, your father was the tribe of Hatem Tai used to take tax from Christians of that time. So Prophet Muhammad said to the son of Hatem Tai, why you take this tax while you don't believe? Your father never believed in this way of life. So he was quite surprised that how does Prophet Muhammad know that my father never believed in Christianity or any other faith? Or in other words, there are some opinion about Hatem Tai that he was muwahhid, maybe. He believed in oneness of God and things like that. So Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam pointed it out to his son, and he was quite shocked and surprised, and then he embraced Islam. So we have to learn from the behavior of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Ahlul Bayt alayhi salatu wasalam, how they treated even non-Muslims, and the type of rulings that were brought and introduced to Muslim world also encourages one to believe that Islam does not mistreat non-believers if they are living and if they are a taxpayer in Muslim countries. So when Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam introduced the rules and regulations of living under Muslim leadership, he said all those who are not Muslim should not be forced to embrace Islam. If they should be introduced to Islam, and if they willingly accept the religion of Islam, well and good. If they don't, they should be allowed to continue to live as what they believe, but the condition is that because they are not Muslim, we cannot take zakat and khums from them. So instead of zakat and khums, they should pay another kind of tax which is especially designed for non-Muslims. And the benefit of paying that kind of tax to a Muslim rulership and kingdom is that their lives are protected. Everything they own in Muslim country is protected. And if the Muslim country goes to the war with a non-Muslim country, these non-believers who are taxpayers in the Muslim country would not be forced to fight their own people of their own faith outside Muslim country. So if we look at this, Islam's teachings are far more advanced than even some rules and regulations of the modern day countries. In America, you have seen that how Muhammad Ali Kilay, when he refused to go and take part in the war, he was ignored. His personality was ignored and he was imprisoned. And same thing happened in elsewhere. If Muslims refuse to go to war, they are mistreated and even fined or imprisoned. So Islam and Islamic teachings were far more advanced in this regard. So our behavior should be same towards all. And I'm not saying that the oppressions should be ignored. I'm not saying that we should just forget this, like some people may say that we should forget the atrocities and wrongdoings of people who have done. For example, the British Empire, when they colonized the world, they took the wealth of the poor countries, and all of this happened. We cannot ignore that, and we should leave that to justice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will definitely do His justice in that case. But there might be some people in this crowd who would say that, Maulana, when we were kicked out of Uganda, none of the Muslim countries gave us refuge. Only United Kingdom gave us refuge, welcomed us, and you can see how the Shia Muslims who were, or non-Muslims or Hindus, who were kicked out of Uganda were given refuge in this part of the world, and they were allowed to live. And majority of those who were kicked out of Uganda have British passports, and they have their own businesses, and they have no restriction on running their business. And none of the Muslim countries at that time accepted any of these refugees in their country. Of course, as I mentioned, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala notices even an atom's worth value of good done by anyone, but He also does not ignore an atom's value of oppression that was committed by them. So all we can do is pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that may Allah count us and keep us amongst the true supporters of Haqq and Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salatu wasalam throughout our life, and all those who have committed atrocities towards anyone, not only Muslims, may Allah deal with them the way they should be dealt according to Islamic teachings. The other question usually is asked during these times is that what is our responsibility? Can we give messages of condolences or not? Giving a message of condolence, there is nothing wrong in that. For example, if your neighbor who is not Muslim dies, of course you have to go and respect and give message of condolences and this and that. There is nothing wrong in that. But if giving of the message of condolence shows your agreement with the atrocities and wrongdoings, that is not acceptable. So we have to be careful what we do and how we give our message of condolence. And the message of condolence should be, yes, we are from God, and we will return to God, and nobody is going to live in this world, and we share your sorrow and sadness in the loss of so and so. That kind of message of condolence is nothing wrong. And somebody even was asking, can we recite Fatiha? I said, reciting Fatiha itself, you will get the sawab for it, because your intention for reciting Surah Al-Hamd or Fatiha or praying for someone, to yourself, there is definitely reward. And whether the person who has deceased deserves the Fatiha or not, that's up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we should leave that in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He will do His justice definitely according to what He knows. And nothing is hidden from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows more than anyone else what these people did to the world and to the Muslims, and what kind of benefit Muslims have taken from them and are taking advantage of their generosities and other things. So we leave that in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's hands and pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that may Allah count us amongst the supporters of justice and amongst the supporters of the person who is going to establish justice in the world, and that is Imam Mahdi Ajjalallahu ta'ala farajuhu. Salawat Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. I conclude the khutbah with reciting verses of Holy Quran. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. صلوات. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا بالقاسم محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين أما بعد. As I mentioned in the beginning and in the first khutbah, we are going through so many difficult situations, and one of them is the disaster of floods in Pakistan, and we have witnessed how people are suffering and losing their properties and lives, and these are the tests that we have to face in this life. I have explained this in my previous khutbahs that the literal meaning of bala in Arabic is involvement. Bala does not mean problem. Bala means involvement. And it is impossible to believe that while we are living in this physical dimension, we will not be involved in some kind of thing. And when we say involvement, an involvement could be good and an involvement could be bad. So those who are going through the floods and losing their properties and lives are involved in a kind of involvement, and they are being tested how they keep their faith while going through the difficulties of the time. And at the same time, us who are not involved in that kind of calamities and difficulties and problem are also being tested. And the involvement that we have is how are we going to react, not only as a Muslim, as a brother and sister of our kind in other part of the world. And if we get involved in a positive way, we definitely will get the reward and we will pass the test of involvement while we are going through this. So basically, involvement, this world is not possible without some kind of involvement. Imam Ali used to say, "Ad-dunya darun bil bala'i mahfufa." This world is a sandwich of involvements. Bala does not mean bad. It doesn't have only a bad meaning. Bala means involvement. So Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib used to say, "Ad-dunya darun bil bala'i mahfufa." Those who are rich and not suffering from floods are also being tested and involved. And those who are suffering, they are also being tested. I have given this example many times before. Being a knowledgeable is a kind of test. Not being knowledgeable is a kind of test. Having wife and children is a kind of test. Not having wife and children and living a single life is a kind of test. Living in this part of the world is a kind of test, and living in the poor countries is another kind of test. So this world is not possible to live without some kind of involvement. I would like to repeat the story that I have mentioned before, that once Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wasalam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, went to a mosque and he heard one of his companions praying for his friend. And he was praying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, may Allah not involve my friend in any kind of involvement and problems in this world. So Imam Ali said, this is wrong dua. Then he said, how can I do the right dua? He said, we are all going to get involved in some kind of life. And it is impossible to not get involved in some kind of life while we are living in this physical dimension. We are all going to be involved. The best dua that you can pray for your friend is, oh Allah, please help my friend not to lose his faith while he is involved in good involvement or bad involvement. That is the best dua. Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wasalam taught to his companion that this is how we should pray for our relatives, for our friends, and for those who we love. Because it is impossible to imagine life without any kind of involvement. If this world was a place not to be involved in anything, prophets and imams were the best ones not to be involved in any kind of problems. But we know that they could not escape. None of the prophets could escape any kind of difficulties and problems. None of the imams could escape any kind of difficulties and problems. So who are we to pray that we may not involve, or our friends may not be involved in some kind of problems and difficulties in this world? So we have to pray the best dua as was taught by Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wasalam, wa Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, may Allah keep us believers and mu'mins in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and all the teachings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because if we lose that, we have lost the most precious thing in our life. I have seen many people who have believed sincerely in everything, and in the last moments of their life, because of little bit of difficulties, they suddenly lost their faith and died as a kafir. And I've seen other way around as well, people who never believed in anything, and they suddenly in their deathbed accepted Islam and did the shahada, and after a few minutes later on they died. So they died alive without committing any sin, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts sincere tawbah, sincere repentance. As I mentioned in previous khutbahs, according to Ayatollah Sistani, the khutbah and Jumu'ah prayer should start within 20 to 25, 30 minutes of Azan al-Zuhr. So I will end my khutbah here by repeating our allegiance to Ahlul Bayt alayhi salatu wasalam and Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, may Allah count us amongst the true followers and supporters and believers in teachings of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib, Bibi Fatima Zahra salawatullah alayha, Imam Hassan Mujtaba alayhi salatu wasalam, Imam Hussein Shaheed Karbala alayhi salatu wasalam, Imam Zainul Abidin, Imam Muhammad Baqir, Imam Ja'far Sadiq, Imam Musa Kazim, Imam Ali ibn Musa Rada, Imam Muhammad Taqi, Imam Ali Naqi, Imam Hassan Askari, Imam Mahdi Ajjalallah Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif. May Allah count us amongst the true supporters of Imam Mahdi until the last breath that we take. May Allah count our progeny and future generation amongst the true supporters of all these noble personalities and Imam Mahdi Ajjalallah Ta'ala Farajahu. Salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. I conclude the khutbah with the recitation of verses of Holy Quran. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Wal asr innal insana lafi khusr illa alladhina amanu wa amilu salihat wa tawasaw bil haqq wa tawasaw bis sabr. Salawat. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. أشهد أن عليا وولده المعصومين حجج الله عليهم الصلاة والسلام حي على الصلاة، حي على الصلاة، حي على الفلاح، حي على الفلاح، حي على خير العمل، حي على خير العمل. قد قامت الصلاة، قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر، الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. صلاة الجمعة تركت. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم، صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. الله أكبر. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. اللهم اغفر لنا وارحمنا وعافنا واعف عنا في الدنيا والآخرة، إنك على كل شيء قدير. الله أكبر. سبحان الله، سبحان الله، سبحان الله، سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان الله، سبحان الله، سبحان الله، سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان الله، سبحان الله، سبحان الله، سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم، صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. الله أكبر. سبحان الله، سبحان الله، سبحان الله، سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار واحشرنا مع الأبرار. الله أكبر. سبحان الله، سبحان الله، سبحان الله، سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان الله، سبحان الله، سبحان الله، سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. رب صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم وفرجنا بهم برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله أكبر، الله أكبر، الله أكبر. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على محمد وآله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. تسبيحات فاطمة الزهراء صلوات الله عليها.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الأول قبل إنشاء والإحياء، والآخر بعد فناء الأشياء، العليم الذي لا ينسى من ذكره ولا ينقص من شكره ولا يخيب من دعاه ولا يقطع رجاء من رجاه. اللهم إني أشهدك وكفى بك شهيدا، وأشهد جميع ملائكتك وسكان سماواتك وحملة عرشك ومن بعثت من أنبيائك ورسلك وأنشأت من أصناف خلقك، أني أشهد أنك أنت الله لا إله إلا أنت وحدك لا شريك لك ولا عديل ولا خلف لقولك ولا تبديل، وأن محمدًا صلى الله عليه وآله عبدك ورسولك، أدى ما حملته إلى العباد وجاهد في الله عز وجل حق الجهاد، وأنه بشر بما هو صدق من الثواب وأنذر بما هو صدق من العقاب. اللهم ثبتني على دينك ما أحييتني، ولا تزغ قلبي بعد إذ هديتني، وهب لي من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد، واجعلني من أتباعه وشيعته، واحشرني في زمرته، ووفقني لأداء فرض الجمعات وما أوجبت علي فيها من الطاعات، وقسمت لأهلها من العطاء في يوم الجزاء، إنك أنت العزيز الحكيم. وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطاهرين.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Please recite the Surah Fatiha for all Marja Taqleed, all Shahada who have given their lives for Islam, Marhum Muallim Ghulam Abbas Manikia, Marhuma Sukaina Bai Ghulam Abbas Manikia, Marhumin of the Hasam, Hemraj Jagani Manikia, and all here present. Al-Fatiha. Dua Shifa is also requested for all those who are unwell today. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Amma yujibul mustarra iza da'a wa yakshifu su. Amma yujibul mustarra iza da'a wa yakshifu su. Amma yujibul mustarra iza da'a wa yakshifu su. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعا ويكشف السوء أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعا ويكشف السوء. And finally, as is customary every Friday, your Jumu'ah contributions are most welcome. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. أشهد أن عليا وأولاده المعصومين حجج الله عليهم الصلاة والسلام. حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل. قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. أستغفر الله ربي من كل ذنب وأتوب إليه. صلاة العصر 4 ركعت نماز واجب قربة إلى الله. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الله أكبر. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار واحشرنا مع الأبرار. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. رب صل على محمد وآل محمد. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. رب صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم وفرجنا بهم برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. تسبيحات فاطمة الزهراء صلوات الله عليها.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا شديد القوى ويا شديد المحال، يا عزيز يا عزيز يا عزيز، ظلت بعظمتك جميع خلقك، فاكفني شر خلقك. يا محسن يا مجمل يا منعم يا مفضل، يا لا إله إلا أنت، سبحانك إني كنت من الظالمين. فاستجبنا له ونجيناه من الغم، وكذلك ننجي المؤمنين. وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين.
السلام عليك سيدي يا رسول الله، السلام عليك يا نبي الله، السلام عليك يا حبيب الله، السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين، السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدتي نساء العالمين، السلام عليك يا حسن المجتبى. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله الحسين، وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليكم مني جميعا سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار، ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين وعلى التسعة المعصومين من ذرية الحسين، لا سيما مولانا صاحب الزمان. السلام عليك يا حجة الله في أرضه. السلام عليك يا عين الله في خلقه. السلام عليك يا نور الله الذي يهتدي به المهتدون ويفرج به عن المؤمنين. السلام عليك أيها المهذب الخائف. السلام عليك أيها الولي الناصح. السلام عليك يا سفينة النجاة. السلام عليك يا عين الحياة. السلام عليك صلى الله عليك وعلى آل بيتك الطيبين الطاهرين. السلام عليك عجل الله لك ما وعدك من النصر وظهور الأمر. السلام عليك يا مولاي، أنا مولاك عارف بأولاك وأخراك، أتقرب إلى الله تعالى بك وبآل بيتك، وانتظروا ظهورك وظهور الحق على يديك، وأسأل الله أن يصلي على محمد وآل محمد، وأن يجعلني من المنتظرين لك والتابعين والناصرين لك على أعدائك، والمستشهدين بين يديك في جملة أوليائك. يا مولاي يا صاحب الزمان، صلوات الله عليك وعلى آل بيتك. هذا يوم الجمعة، وهو يومك متوقع فيه ظهورك، والفرج فيه للمؤمنين على يديك، وقتل الكافرين بسيفك. وأنا يا مولاي فيه ضيفك وجارك، وأنت يا مولاي كريم من أولاد الكرام، ومأمور بالضيافة والإجارة، فأضفني وأجرني صلوات الله عليك وعلى أهل بيتك الطاهرين. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك